Well, the DP World Tour, Rob, haven't really said too much at all, and they're in a very difficult position. Keith Pelly, the CEO of the DP World Tour, is in a difficult position because he was the one who cozied up to the Saudis and got in bed with them a few years ago. The Saudi International was an event on the DP World Tour for the last 3 years. It wasn't this year, it was an Asian Tour event this year, but for 3 years it was. So he's in a very difficult position. The DP World Tour has also essentially become a feeder tour to the PGA Tour these days, and the DP World Tour answer to the PGA Tour. Now, the PGA Tour have been very clear all along that anybody who joins this breakaway Saudi Golf League, they will not be welcome back on the PGA Tour at all. Jay Monahan, the chief executive of the PGA Tour, is very confident they've got the legal frameworks in place to be able to do that. Greg Norman, on the other hand, is very clear that they don't, so that it will almost certainly all end up in court at some point. We had this unprecedented seismic step really a couple of days ago when Kevin Na announced that he was resigning from the PGA Tour. Such was his desire to play on the LIV Series and line his pockets with money. So that was a big step. We wait to see whether it all ends up in the courts. But remember, the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour are completely separate from all four majors as well. They are all individually run. Augusta National run the Masters. The USGA run next week's US Open. The PGA of America run the PGA Championship. And of course, the R&A run the Open. And they've all kind of kept their powder pretty dry, to be honest, on what happens to those players if they decide to play in the Saudi Series, whether they're welcome at the majors. Next week is the US Open. So if Phil Mickelson, and not just Phil Mickelson, the likes of Lee Westwood, Ian Poulter, Louis Oosthuizen, there's a lot of players, I think 12 players in the field for this week at Centurion, who are all in the field for the US Open next week. Well, as things stand, they're currently welcome at Brookline. They haven't been banned yet, and I would be very surprised if they were at this late stage.
And Jamie, you mentioned some of the players there that we know are going to be taking part. Dustin Johnson was the big name last week, of course, losing some sponsorship and things over his decision to join. Is it a case of these golfers kind of looking around them, seeing who's signing up, kind of working out their next step? Do you expect to see more golfers follow in their footsteps?
I would imagine so. I would imagine there are a lot of players just waiting to see how this first event goes. They don't want to dip their toe in the water just yet. They want the likes of Dustin Johnson, Phil Mickelson, Louis Oosthuizen to be the sacrificial guinea pigs. And if it's a hit, then they'll be involved in the next one in Portland, in Oregon, which is just a few weeks away. So look, it has been an extraordinary story in golf for the last few months. It is the gift that keeps on giving. It's been farcical at times. Today, they announced that Jessie J will be the headliner on Saturday night in their post-golf concert. As you know, Rob, I know you're a big fan of Jessie J's work. Her biggest hit is Price Tag, which starts with the line, "Seems everybody's got a price. I wonder how you sleep at night." Well, Phil Mickelson's clearly got his price, and it's $200 million. But look, somebody I was speaking to over the weekend said the thing is with these incredibly driven, incredibly successful sports people is too much is never enough. And they will think, well, I've got 200 million in my bank account. Why can't that be 400 million? You know, greed is a very powerful thing. And you're right, there are a number of people in this field where you can make a case for them. I would also say the likes of Richard Bland. He'll be 50 next year. He's only really started making decent money in his career over the last 14 months or so. He'll be wondering, how much longer can I play at this level for? Here is a chance to make an awful lot of money very quickly indeed, to set up my children, my grandchildren for life. Then you're talking about the likes of Andy Ogletree, who was an extraordinary amateur, but he's only made 6 cuts in his PGA Tour career. He's made $36,000 total in 2 years of playing on the PGA Tour. Well, last place this week is $240,000. So he can instantly make $200,000 more just for 3 days' work. I can understand it for players like that. But yes, maybe I'm being naive. Maybe I'm over-romanticizing the Ryder Cup. But I would have thought for the likes of Sergio Garcia, Lee Westwood, Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, Ian Poulter, Martin Keimer, who are Ryder Cup legends, certainly when you look at the likes of Poulter, Garcia, Westwood, does it mean nothing to them being a Ryder Cup captain one day? Does it mean nothing to them having a Ryder Cup legacy? Think of Ian Poulter, you think of the Ryder Cup, he's the postman. He's the man who pumps his chest and gives so much for the continent of Europe. Well, it seems he's willing to throw all of that away to get even richer, and he's already an exceedingly rich man. So look, there will be some questions for these players to answer. I'll be there at Centurion tomorrow. It'll be very interesting to hear what a lot of them have to say, and there'll be some morbid curiosity, I'm sure, from a lot of people in some of the questions that are asked and some of the answers that are given. Let's be clear, none of the questions tomorrow or Wednesday are going to be about golf. I know you're there on Wednesday as well, Rob. So look, it's the gift that keeps on giving, this story, and I think it's still got a long way to run yet.